The U.S. Department of Transportation says it's open to tearing down the northern leg of Tulsa's interdispersal loop.
Fox 23's Rick Marinot is live in the Greenwood district, where the transportation secretary says it could be time for a change, but Rick, he says that change needs to start locally.
It is a big ask, and we'll be honest how we approached this with the transportation secretary. We were invited to talk about grants and other things on other sides of town, and when we went through and asked the secretary about the things he wanted to talk about, we then said, okay, let's talk about what we want to talk about. Pete, you were here in the Greenwood district. You not only saw one bridge, but two bridges cutting through this historically black neighborhood. Did you have a discussion down here or not about removing these? And he said, we did. And we are thinking about getting rid of this stuff. Over the years, it's become the dividing line between North Tulsa and everyone else.
We know that north of that IDL, that highway, there's not a lot of economic development. We know that north of that highway, we don't really own anything. All you have to do is just open your eyes and you see a tale of two cities. And
Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, whose office is in the Greenwood Cultural Center, works just feet away from what is considered to be a government-imposed racial boundary that not only perpetuates a stereotype, but also is the official marker of where white Tulsa stops and black Tulsa begins.
For far too long, our voices haven't been heard. For far too long, we've just been crying out like for reparations. And I believe that the removal of that highway and to allow community voice to be heard, that is a form of reparations and repair.
Last August, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg toured the Greenwood district with State Representative Regina Goodwin and other local leaders who say it's time for the northern leg of the IDL to go.
I think what's clear is that something needs to be done. What next needs to happen is a unified vision of how to achieve that.
Buttigieg says the federal government is open to the idea of removing the highway to fix what has become a racial dividing line, but the federal government won't do it on its own.
We won't dictate it, but we will definitely work hand in hand with the community to try to find a way forward.
U.S. Buttigieg says has received some proposals, and it's a community-oriented plan that he says will guide any change, not mandates by the federal government.
It shows that there's already a lot of interest in the community and in the state on doing something.
Tulsa City Councilor Vanessa Hall Harper says the fact that there is someone in the federal government now open to even hearing about change is huge, but she knows that these things do take time and don't happen overnight.
It's refreshing to hear that he's at least open to addressing the issues and the problems that were caused in these communities, particularly Tulsa, 70 years ago, and what can we do to rectify those today? So.
She says the land for the northern leg of the IDL was taken through eminent domain, and there's a strong chance Tulsa's history, good and bad, is buried somewhat underneath the interstate. And it's about returning the land to the community that had it taken from them in many people's minds twice.
It's a lot of work to be done, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And in the United States, it just hasn't shown historically that it will pay the price, right, to rectify wrongs in the past. And so I'm hopeful. That's all I can say. I'm hopeful.
And one of those proposals that Buttigieg was talking about, I reached out to Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum's office, and he tells me that his office, the city of Tulsa, and ODOT actually submitted something to get rid of these two bridges, and that is part of the proposals Buttigieg is looking at now. Also, keep in mind, as we said in that story, this thing takes time. They're not just going to start ripping this thing down immediately just because we feel like it. So there is a risk here as to if this takes a long time, and let's say the Biden administration is not reelected or Pete Buttigieg leaves, there is some concern that this may be on hold if there's any kind of change in the federal government leadership. Live in Greenwood, covering news that matters, I'm Rick Marin on Fox 23 News.